Congressman, 2nd District, Virginia Beach, Republican Scott Rigell. Congressman, it's been a while. Great to have you on.
Hey, it's good to be back, John. We really have had a robust calendar up here in Washington. I know it's kind of hard to believe at times, but we're getting some things done, passing a lot of appropriations bills, which has been a top priority of mine since I got up here, and we're actually working pretty hard. We're getting out, 10:30, 11 o'clock at night most nights, and I'm not complaining about it because it's heading in the right direction, at least on that topic.
Question is, before we get into trade and ISIS and some of the international issues going on, you're now on the Appropriations Committee. Has that met your expectations?
It really has. Well, at first, it's interesting work. You're meeting, our nation's top leaders of all of our federal agencies, interacting with them on a one-to-one basis. Being able to grill, really, the IRS commissioner on much of the malfeasance that's gone on in that agency and things like that. Just being able to engage them directly. And I'm not talking about just in the committee hearings, but in my own office. They'll come by and talk to us, and that just wasn't the case with armed services. And I loved my work on armed services. Obviously, it's so important, but we still interact with the military. So I still have access to our top uniformed and non-uniformed military personnel. But I guess the portfolio, if you will, John, has increased dramatically, and I'm enjoying it. I'm kind of surprised that Scott Rigell's enjoying a committee, because that's not really my, the way I like to operate. But I'm enjoying it.
Now, how are you getting along with your chairman?
Now, I didn't plug that question to you. I didn't know you were going to ask me that. But let me put it this way: I'm clawing my way back to a better relationship. When I voted against the speaker, that was rough. It really was. He didn't, in all candor, he didn't appreciate it, and it got us sideways for a good while. And I think he now understands why I did it, and it was the right decision. And but anyway, just time takes care of that kind of stuff. So we're kind of clawing our way back into good graces. And look, I just cast votes that I think are right for our country long term. And I tell my staff all the time, look, I want to serve without fear and leave without regret. And it doesn't come up all that often, but every now and then you get these votes that are just really tough. But anyway, well, look, it'll work out.
You did the right thing. Man. You did the right thing in voting against John Boehner. We certainly applauded you for that. And Chairman Paul Ryan, that this trade deal is a disaster. I want to let's go to that, Congressman Rigell. Let's go to the first phase of this, which is likely going to come up. We're going to stand on Friday, which is giving President Obama fast-track trade authority, basically to negotiate what is many like me consider to be changing the global trade rules across the earth. I mean, you look at President Obama's negotiating standards. I mean, it's tough to find anything this guy's done right.
All right, here we go, John. We're going to have to deconstruct your argument there, and I knew we'd head into this, and that's all right. One of the things you just said was to give him, authority to do this. Look, the president has got authority under Article 2 of the Constitution right now to negotiate these things. So it's not a question of whether the president has the authority or not. He's got the authority in our Constitution. And when you reference, Paul Ryan, Chairman Ryan, I coincidentally had a really good opportunity yesterday to talk to him about a half an hour privately about all this. And when I walked in and we talked, first thing I said was, well, Paul, let me just, kind of lay the groundwork here. I said, I'm in favor of this. And John, I know that I'm sideways with you on this, and that's all right. I mean, these things happen every now and then, but when I was on your show, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, and you asked me about it, and I said, well, based on everything that I know now, I wouldn't. For the precise reason that you just said, John. You just said, look, I don't have confidence in the president. Well, let me tell you, a month later, I still don't have confidence in the president, but it's precisely for that reason that I'm voting for this, the Trade Promotion Authority. I had not read the bill, I hadn't read anything at that time, but this is so important to our country and to the working men and women of this country and to our economy and for America long term. I stopped, immersed myself in the whole process, looked at all the Congressional Research Service, the analysis documents that they produce for us, just immersed myself in this. And, of course, obviously, starting with the bill itself. Every page, as I turned it, it doesn't give, in my view, it doesn't give the president more authority. It gives Congress more authority. The authority that's promoting, I mean this in all candor. You read the bill, it's injecting Congress into the whole process. And absent that, we have less influence, not more. So, though it runs counter to at least some of the conservative narrative that's out there in the blogosphere, in my view, it's the right conservative vote. That's how I see it. And as always, I know there's some good members that are friends of mine that are going to vote against it. But I hope it'll pass. I think it's best for our country.
Let's get then to the trade bill itself,
sure.
Which we've talked to a lot of people on this, and thank goodness for WikiLeaks. I'm a fan of WikiLeaks, and I'm a fan of it because finally some of this got leaked out. Now, first of all, if this bill
are you talking about the Trans-Pacific Partnership?
Well,
now,
there's two things. You've got fast track, and then you've got the trade partnership. And let me just outline my anxiety with this. The same people who got on my show during the Cromnibus and said, whoa, John, you know what? Let's just get through Cromnibus. The real fight is going to be DHS. Then we're going to defund it. There'll be no amnesty. Okay? What happened? You funded, Cromnibus went through, DHS came. Well, we can't shut DHS down, John. We can't shut the government down. We can't do that. We have to govern. So my fear is that, well, let's give Obama fast-track trade, then we're going to vote on TPP, and that'll be the battle. But then at the end of the day, my fear is that the same thing is going to happen. And, Congressman, there's so much money involved now. I mean, this TPP thing is just, it's the globalist, elitist, continual searching the globe for slave labor. And so many of us believe that giving the president fast track is going to just lead to a stamping, if you will, of TPP. Tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I'd say, listen, the position you hold is not without logic, so it's not like it's an irrational position, but let me just default to my corporate and business background. If I was negotiating for the sale of or purchase of anything, and I've done that many, many times, there is a time in which you don't announce things to the world because everything's in flux and you want to try to get the right agreement. Now, after that's done, you can make it more public. I don't have a problem. In fact, I fully understand the need during the negotiating time for confidentiality. And though you could go on WikiLeaks and read, apparently, if it's true, this document, I'll be doing it in a secure area this afternoon for about an hour. So I'll be looking and reading the Trans-Pacific Agreement this afternoon. Now, what the Trade Promotion Authority, and I don't really see it as fast track, I see it as Trade Promotion Authority and increasing Congress's authority in it, and I see it as such. This requires a 60-day period where this thing is open to anybody. Anybody in the 2nd District can read it. And they if their time permits, they should, because it's so important to our district. I mean, the epicenter of our economy in Hampton Roads, in large part, of course, we'll never forget the military. They're all around us. But it's the port. I mean, this is important to hardworking Virginians. This is important to just across the country. But there is a period, John, this is not done in the dark of night. I mean, this will be done. That is, the review and the vote is done in the light of day. And it increases transparency. It does. Listen, I went into this thing with a strong bias against, because I have a visceral reaction to the president, in every area, every major component of running our country. But if you look at the agreement, you slow down and you read it. And when I talked to Paul Ryan yesterday in his office, and I said, Paul, I'm with you on this, and here's why. He looked at me, eye to eye, man to man, and he said, Scott, it's the right thing for our country. And he's looked at me right in the eye when he's saying this, and I can, listen, if we're wrong, maybe we are wrong, but there's a lot of good men and women and leading conservatives. If I'm wrong, Charles Krauthammer's wrong. If I'm wrong, the Club for Growth is wrong. And on and on and on. Conservative thinkers and organizations are in favor of this, John. And so if we're wrong, it's only because, well, I don't think we are, but there's no one's gotten to me or promised me anything. Look, they can't promise me anything. First of all, we don't even have earmarks anymore. And when you vote against the speaker in January of the year, you don't have anything left anyway, really. So this is just Scott Rigell in my own judgment, and coincidentally, it aligns with Charles Krauthammer and others whom I respect. So I don't see it as something done in the dark of night. I really don't.
You got two separate issues. You got the fast track or TPA authority. That's number one, right?
Yep.
That's coming up on Friday. That gives, as you said, the president the authority to negotiate the deal, if you will. And then we're going to have an opportunity to review it. But look, I don't really care what Charles Krauthammer says. He was wrong in the 90s on NAFTA, just like he's wrong now. You know what, Congressman? Give me about 90 seconds here. I heard these same arguments in the 90s for NAFTA by the same people. It was going to create all these jobs. They were going to magically flow into the United States, and it was a free trade deal. It's not free trade. This TPP is managed trade going into it with the Chi-Coms, who are trying to take down our federal cyber systems, the Vietnamese that are paying their people 50 cents an hour. The Chi-Coms are outsourcing jobs to Vietnam.
As we say up
I got the same argument. I got the same arguments.
Will the gentleman yield? As we say up here, will the gentleman yield? Hey, John, I don't want to cut you off because we're good friends here as we banter through all this, but I'll tell you that the agreement itself, the whole point of this is to raise these other countries. Listen, one of the things I interacted with Paul was this. Paul, what about China and the rates that they're paying their employees and their environmental laws? And this was a question that I wanted to work through. If you read the agreement, to your point, John, it's that is our pressure point. They want to sell to the United States, and by the way, to be prosperous as a nation, we've got to export. Only 5%, well, really about 4% of the world's population lives in America. I mean, the buying power, as powerful as we are, is outside of America. And so the pressure that we have is through our trade agreements to elevate the pressure on these countries to make their working conditions better, to adhere to some reasonable environmental laws. Listen, absent trade agreements, these things don't happen. And the world is moving, John. This is a ship in motion here. And our way to influence the direction of it is through, and I don't call them free trade agreements. Frankly, there isn't such a thing. It's fair trade, trying to allow the American worker to be on equal footing with our foreign counterparts. And if we don't directly engage in that process, it will not happen.
Well, Congressman, look, I don't know how you can call this thing free trade when the countries involved in it, or even fair trade. When the countries involved in it have put tariffs on stuff right and left, we don't put tariffs on anything. So, look, at the end of the day, in my judgment, it's just I heard the same arguments with NAFTA, and I almost got run out of the Republican Party by the globalists. Same thing. I said that 10 million manufacturing jobs would go away. It's more like 15 million. The import-export balance that we have has gotten gotten
we have
worse.
We have a trade
since
surplus
NAFTA.
with every country that we have in my view, a fair trade agreement. This is not the case with the countries in which we don't have these agreements. Look, John, I am sober-minded about this process. I know it's not easy. I know that it's imperfect. But if I weigh the two alternatives, if you want to hunker down and just have Americans selling to Americans, good luck with that. I mean, that isn't going to work.
Why
we will not be the world's superpower. into perpetuity if we just think we can hunker down here in America and just sell to each other.
Yeah, but if you
the
don't,
way this happens is you've got to have agreements with other countries in which to a framework in which to sell to one another.
If you don't have jobs, you can't. The people don't have money to buy anything. I mean, this trade deal, if you look at it, and look, history predicts the future. I'm a believer in that. You look at the NAFTA deal; it's been a disaster.
You're right.
You know, I'm right,
John. I would say this. I'm not a fan of NAFTA. You know, I wasn't around to vote for it, and I can tell you, I haven't immersed myself in that as I have in this. But the whole point of it is, your point is correct. I mean, history will be instructive to us, but it's instructive in two ways. One, if you don't learn the lessons, you're destined to repeat it. But if you look back and you see what you did right, and you build on that, and you look at where you kind of screwed up, and you say, I don't want to do that again. Look, the lessons of NAFTA, are incorporated, I would trust, into TPP. If they're not, then I'll vote against it. And I think, evidenced by my track record, John, I'm not worried about leadership up here. I didn't come to this conclusion because somebody asked me to, or somebody told me they were going to build an overpass on 264 or something like in the old days. That's how they get to somebody like me. No, I did it because I read all this stuff. And I came to my own conclusion. It was only after that, John, that I asked my staff, and this is true, I said, all right, I made my decision, y'all. Go out there and find out what groups are opposing this and what groups are supporting it. And I was truly shocked. I was truly shocked at the list. I mean, it was just a plethora of conservative individuals, leading thinkers, and organizations. So I know that your view is principled. I know that you deeply believe it. I respect that. I also respectfully disagree with it because I think that this is best for our country long term. My vote tomorrow is respectfully unapologetic on this because I think it represents the best future for our country. We can outthink, out-export, out-create, out-manufacture any country in the world if we have even a relatively fair playing field. And this, in my view, the path that we're taking has the highest probability of leading us to that place, and that's why I'm voting for it.
Well, I respect the conclusion that you've reached, Congressman, and I always appreciate you coming on, and we always appreciate your forthrightness and candor. On this issue, we're going to, as you say, we're going to have to agree to disagree.
That's all right,
and that is okay. I mean, I'm on the opposite end of this, and I don't see how it is in the best interest of U.S. workers struggling to make ends meet to be shipping jobs to the Viet Cong, who are paying their people an average of 56 cents an hour. This thing makes no sense to me. Look, I've heard these same arguments from the globalists and the elitists in their continual worldwide search for slave labor. That's what they're after, in my judgment. But look, I respect your position on it, and I really thank you, Congressman Rigell, for being with us today. Thank you so much.
It's helpful, John. I appreciate the opportunity. I would just say in 10 seconds that it's precisely the litany of things you just listed are the reasons for, in my view, to advance this. And I don't know if that's the last word or not, but thank you for having me on the show. It's helpful to me. It's helpful, I hope, to the listeners to understand how I'm serving the 2nd District, an amazing district. And by the way, thank you for what you're doing. For the veterans and the Freedom Tour, the Defend Freedom Tour. I'm so glad to know that you're associated with that. I know the individuals who are part of that. Just, I don't toss around the word patriot freely. I'm just mindful of what it means in its true sense. And these are patriots. They're good men and women who sacrifice deeply. So I thank you for being part of that.
All right, sir. Thanks for being with us.